Shanghai port was never so cramped and calm too. Hundreds of behemoth cargo ships have been anchored offshore for the last 2 months as sea ripples slam against their metal walls only to fade away. That is the only sound one could hear there. But the quiet Shanghai port has been creating a different sort of ripples across most shores of the world. Silence was never so contagious and disturbing too. The effect of lockdown in Shanghai, also known as China's financial powerhouse, has spelt doom for scores of industrial cities across the world. The supply chain is in tatters, and so is the fate of factories, their owners, and workers. One such industrial town, over 4,500 kilometers from Shanghai shores and pinned close to the India-Pakistan border, is now a pale shadow of what it used to be a few summers ago. The city, which used to produce about 90% of the country's apparel, has now some of its machinery covered under the same ready-made garments, although unfinished. The accessories like buttons, chains, etc., which went into these apparels used to come from the Shanghai factories. Their journey used to end in the narrow lanes of Ludhiana's bustling Shahpur Road, which housed most of the factories. But the seeming sense of normalcy in this crowded market for fabrics and garments belies the deep distress that the city's textile industry finds itself in. Repeated supply shocks, the latest being the closure of the Shanghai port in China, have all but brought the industry to its knees. Ludhiana, Punjab's 20,000 crore rupees textile hub, accounts for more than 90% of India's apparel production for the domestic market. But for the last 6 years, it has been repeatedly hit by one setback after another. In 2016, demonetization crippled the city's hosiery industry, which mostly comprised micro and small businesses. Then, just as it started finding its feet again, the COVID-19 pandemic piled more misery on it. And the latest supply shock came from the closure of the Shanghai port for the last 2 months. Shanghai handles a fifth of China's cargo, and the country holds a virtual monopoly on the supply of garment accessories such as buttons, chains, embellishments, and so on. Even though the port opened for business last week, industry insiders say that it will take over a month for the supply chain to return to normal. Factory owners say that earlier, basic raw materials would take 15 to 20 days to be shipped and specialized orders would take 60 days. These supply cycles have now extended multifold. So, input costs for manufacturers have also gone up. Vinod Thapar, president of Knitwear Club, an apparel industry association, told Business Standard that several factory owners have been forced to source their accessories locally, but the local products lack competitiveness, both in terms of quality and cost, he said.
जितनी भी एक्सेसरीज हैं चाइना से आती और एक्सेसरीज के बगैर पीस कंप्लीट नहीं हो सकता, तो वैल्यू एडिशन करने में एक्सेसरीज की बहुत जरूरत होती है। तो मोर देन 95% एक्सेसरीज चाइना से आती है, तो इसलिए चाइना अपना एक्सेसरीज बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट है हमारी गारमेंट इंडस्ट्री के लिए। ड्यू टू लॉकडाउन देयर इज नो सप्लाई एंड मोर ओवर if little lax is there, तो वहाँ कंटेनर्स हैं वो उनकी अवेलेबिलिटी नहीं है। अगर हो भी जाए तो आने में 1.5 से 2 महीने लग जाते हैं चाइना टू इंडिया, तो इसलिए काफी ट्रबल में है। एक्सेसरीज के अलावा जो हमारी जैकेट्स है जो पॉपुलर है सबसे ज्यादा, उसके जो फैब्रिक्स हैं वो चाइना से हैं, क्वालिटी बहुत अच्छी है, कम्पिटिटिव प्राइस है, बहुत वाजिब रेट से माल आता है। जो इंडियन क्वालिटी है वो उससे मैच नहीं कर सकती है और तो प्राइस भी ज्यादा है। हमारे इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस अच्छे हों, माल वहां से स्मूथली आना हो जाए। इंडिया में अभी एक्सेसरीज की बहुत कमी है।
Many retailers say that their products would not sell even for half the price without the accessories that are mostly imported from China. Thapar and others say that though the Shanghai port reopened on June 1, manufacturers in Ludhiana have already curtailed or delayed their production plans at the risk of not having ready stock by the time peak season arrives in winter. Harinder Thapar, a textile manufacturer and retailer, pointed out another problem: the depreciation of the rupee against the dollar. He said that traders will end up paying more for material. In addition to the cost inflation in basic raw materials, the high price of crude is also severely impacting business, since fabrics like nylon and polyester are petroleum-based products. Sudarshan Jain, President, Knitwear and Apparel Manufacturers Association of Ludhiana, said that the industry expects the prices of winter apparel to increase by 15 to 20% this season. The lockdown in Shanghai has now been lifted. The port is again buzzing with activity and ships are fanning across oceans, heading to far-off cities. The relief for Ludhiana's apparel industry is also on the way.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.
क्या हाल?
मत पूछ यार,
फिर से स्टॉक्स में फंस गया।
तो स्टॉक्स के साथ बॉन्ड्स, इंश्योरेंस, गोल्ड में बैलेंस कर।
इसमें बहुत तामझाम है।
तुझे 5 पैसा नहीं पता?
अब तो सबको पता है। 5 पैसा है ऑल इन वन अकाउंट। डाउनलोड 5 पैसा नाउ।
अब तो सबको पता है। Investing made easy and rewarding with 5 paisa. Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.